Netimama, my friend, have you ever wondered why Nanyoki is always so busy when you are away? Intimama looked up from his portion of roasted goat meat, his usually calm eyes narrowing slightly. The festivities of the Engkang Unkiri, the meat-eating ceremony where young warriors of the Maasai got together to eat meat and boast about their various achievements in the battlefield. The festivities were in full swing, with laughter and the sounds of joyous celebration filling the air. The smell of meat, roasted to perfection, mingled with the earthy scents of the savannah. Ntimama had always cherished these moments with his fellow Morans, and he'd hoped to create more. But Saitoti was getting on his nerves. "Saitoti, what are you implying?" Intimama's voice was steady, but there was an edge to it that hadn't been there before. Saitoti leaned in closer, his voice lowering to a conspiratorial whisper. "I'm just saying, a man should know what happens in his own home, especially when he's not around." Ntimama felt a rush of anger, but kept his expression neutral. He had always prided himself on his calm demeanor, a quality that had earned him respect among his peers. But Saitoti's insinuations were testing his patience. "Speak plainly, Saitoti. What are you trying to tell me?" Saitoti took a long drink from his calabash, his eyes gleaming with a malicious satisfaction. Ntimama had the strangest urge to bury his fists in between Saitoti's eyes. "Everyone knows your wife likes new things." There was a sneer on his lips. "How is it that the whole village knows that our wife is sleeping with other men and you remain blissfully ignorant?" Saitoti asked, and then cocked his head to the side. The word struck Ntimama like a blow. He stared at Saitoti, trying to discern whether this was some cruel joke or the bitter truth. "You are lying," he said, though the conviction in his voice wavered. Saitoti shrugged, a sly smile playing on his lips. "Believe what you will, Ntimama, but a wise man keeps his eyes open even when they are closed." Saitoti turned to the other warriors whose attentions were now focused on the word exchange between Saitoti and Ntimama. "You've heard about the rumors, haven't you all?" The warriors hooted and uluated. Ntimama grimaced. He felt like he was being paraded for everyone to make fun of. Ntimama's heart pounded in his chest. He wanted to dismiss Saitoti's words as the ramblings of a malicious gossip, but doubt had already taken root in his mind. The image of Nanyoki, his beloved wife, lying in bed with another man was a painful one. He had noticed her growing distance, the way she often seemed lost in thought, but he had attributed it to the fact that he'd been away for 3 months after they got married to go to war. "And what happens if this is not true, Saitoit?" Ntimama asked, staring daggers at him. Saitoit laughed. The sound was like a machete scraping against the surface of a stone. Ntimama gritted his teeth in irritation. "And what happens if this is not true, Saitoti?" Ntimama asked, staring daggers at him. Saitoti laughed. The sound was like a machete scraping against the surface of a stone. Ntimama gritted his teeth in irritation. The other warriors, sensing the rising tension, began to hoot and ululate, encouraging the confrontation. "Why don't you ask her yourself?" Saitoti taunted, his eyes gleaming with a mixture of amusement and malice. "Or maybe you're too afraid to hear the truth." Ntimama's fists clenched at his sides. The jeers from the surrounding warriors fueled his anger. He had always been a man of composure, but Saitoti's words were tearing through his restraint. "Saitoti, you speak like a man with nothing to lose," Ntimama said, his voice dangerously low. "But remember, words can lead to actions you might regret." Saitoti stepped closer, his sneer widening. "And what actions are those, Ntimama? Will you finally act like a man and defend your honor, or will you continue to be a fool blinded by love?" The taunt was too much. The blood roared in Entimama's ears, and the anger that had been simmering within him boiled over. Without another word, he swung his fist, catching Saitoti square on the jaw. The force of the punch sent Saitoti staggering back, crashing into the table of roasted meat. The warriors erupted in a mix of cheers and shouts, forming a circle around the two men. Intimama's usual calm demeanor was gone, replaced by a fierce determination to defend his honor. Saitoti, recovering quickly, lunged at Intimama, tackling him to the ground. The two men grappled in the dirt, their movements quick and fueled by rage. Saitoti landed a few punches, but Intimama's fury gave him strength. He rolled Saitoti over, pinning him down with a knee to his chest. "Do you think this is a joke, Saitoti?" Intimama growled, his breath coming in ragged gasps. "Do you think you can insult my wife and walk away unscathed?" Saitoti struggled beneath him, his face contorted with both pain and anger. "You think beating me will change anything, Intimama? You think it will make the rumors disappear?" Intimama's fist collided with Saitoti's face again, the impact silencing him. Blood trickled from Saitoti's nose, but Intimama didn't relent. He lifted Saitoti by his collar, his voice a low, dangerous whisper. "You will retract your words, Saitoti, or I will ensure you never speak again." The warriors' chants grew louder, some encouraging Intimama to finish the fight, others urging Saitoti to fight back. But it was clear to everyone that Intimama had the upper hand. Saitoti, now realizing the severity of the situation, nodded weakly. "Enough." One of the older warriors, a respected elder named Lemayan, stepped into the circle, his voice cutting through the noise. "This is not the way of our people. Resolve your issues with words, not fists." Intimama released Saitoti, standing up and stepping back. His chest heaved with exertion and anger. But he respected Lemayan's authority. Saitoti, battered and bruised, scrambled to his feet, glaring at Intimama with a mixture of fear and resentment. "You will regret this, Intimama," Saitoti spat, wiping the blood from his face. "You may have won this fight, but the truth will come out." Intimama didn't respond. He watched as Saitoti retreated, his mind a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. The other warriors dispersed, the excitement of the fight giving way to the continuation of the feast. But Intimama's appetite was gone, replaced by a gnawing doubt. What if everyone else was right? The rest of the evening passed in a blur. Intimama could barely taste the meat or enjoy the camaraderie of his fellow Morans. His mind was consumed with Saitoti's insinuations. Meanwhile, and back at home, Nanyoki was dancing and shaking her waist around the manyatta where they lived. She was in high spirits. Apart from being the only young woman in the village with a husband who really loved her, she also had a field full of cattle. It was a sign of wealth and prosperity, and she was lucky to be blessed with both. Nanyoki was the most beautiful woman in the village, and rightly so. With angular features and sharp brown eyes, long lashes that made her eyes seductive, and luscious slim curves. Her hair fell to her shoulders like a veil. Nanyoki had the life most Maasai women would kill for. She was the village head's daughter in the neighboring town, and when she'd gotten married to Intimama, her father had thrown a grand affair and gifted her husband, Intimama, 30 cows as a wedding gift. In the last couple of months, it's been her job taking care of them, while Intimama was off fighting wars. The air that evening was crisp, and the weather, which had been blazing hot earlier that day, was suddenly chilly. Nanyoki ran to the entrance of the manyatta and greeted her husband the way she was meant to. "How was the meat-eating ceremony?" She kissed with a teasing smile. "I made my own food and filled it with meat as well." I will not be taking no for an answer. She continued, oblivious to Intimama's crestfallen countenance. Is it true? He asked. Nanyoki frowned. What is true? Intimama looked up at his wife and lost the ability to speak. What is it? She repeated, leaning in to get a closer look at his face. Intimama turned his face away. He was not sure if he was afraid of her reply or afraid of the truth. He clutched his hand to his chest, suddenly not able to breathe. He touched her cheek gingerly. His hands shook slightly. Okay, you're scaring me. What is wrong with you? Nanyoki asked, a mask of concern on her face. Intimama pressed his lips together and cleared his throat. I am fine, my love. I am just so full, he said with a forced smile. Nankoyi smiled warmly at him and pulled him into a hug. You need to rest. Let me get you water to drink, she said, and then hurried into the manyatta. He watched her walk away, her buttocks swinging as she moved. A single tear slid down his left cheek. He only wished it was not true. The next morning, Intimama rose early. The sun had just begun to cast its golden light over the plains. Nanyoki was already outside their manyatta, preparing for the day's tasks. She looked up and smiled when she saw him, but Intimama's heart was too heavy to return the gesture. Intimama, you're up early. Did you sleep well? She asked, her voice filled with genuine concern. Intimama forced a smile. I have some matters to attend to today. I will be away for a few hours. Nanyoki nodded, her smile unwavering. Be safe, my love. I will have dinner ready when you return. Intimama watched her for a moment, his heart aching with the doubt that had taken root. He turned and walked away, heading towards the outskirts of the village where the Maasai spiritual guide, Mzee Ole Lekini, resided. Mzee Ole Lekini was a man of great wisdom and respect. His manyatta was simple, but exuded an air of tranquility. As Intimama approached, he felt a sense of calm wash over him despite the turmoil within. He found the old man seated outside, tending to a small fire and humming an ancient tune. Mzee, Intimama greeted, bowing his head respectfully. Intimama, my son, what troubles you? The old man asked, his eyes sharp and perceptive, seeming to see right through Intimama's troubled soul. Intimama hesitated for a moment, then poured out the entire story. Saitoti's accusations, the fight, and the nagging doubt about Nanyoki's faithfulness. Mzee Ole Lekini listened silently, nodding occasionally. When Intimama finished, the old man leaned back, his expression thoughtful. Natimama! Trust is the foundation of any union, but doubt, once planted, can grow into a mighty tree that shadows all reason. You seek the truth, but you fear what you might find. Intimama nodded, his throat tight. I don't know what to believe anymore, Mzee. How can I find out the truth? Mzee Ole Lekini's eyes twinkled with a mix of amusement and wisdom. Sometimes, to see clearly, one must pretend to be blind. Only then will the true colors of those around you reveal themselves. Intimama frowned, confused. What do you mean, Mzee? The old man smiled, his face creasing into a web of wrinkles that spoke of a lifetime of wisdom. Go back to your manyatta and tell Nanyoki you have been struck by sudden blindness. Observe her reaction and how she treats you. The truth will unveil itself in how she responds to your vulnerability. Intimama considered the advice, a mixture of relief and apprehension washing over him. It was a bold plan, but he trusted Mzee Ole Lekini's wisdom. But Mzee, what if her reaction is a result of shock or worry? How will I know if her actions are genuine? Mzee Ole Lekini's gaze softened. The heart speaks louder in moments of crisis, Intimama. You will see her true nature when she believes you are helpless. Pay close attention to the small details, the way she looks at you, the time she spends away from you, the people she speaks with. Your heart will know the truth, even if your eyes do not. Ntimama nodded slowly, feeling a sense of determination settle over him. Thank you, Mzee. I will do as you say. Mzee Ole Lakini nodded, reaching out to place a weathered hand on Ntimama's shoulder. Remember, my son, the spirits are with you. They will guide you through this difficult time. Stay strong and trust in your instincts. As Ntimama rose to leave, the old man spoke again, his voice gentle but firm. And remember, Ntimama, love is a powerful force. It can heal, but it can also deceive. Keep your heart open, but do not be blind to the truth that lies before you. Ntimama bowed deeply, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. I will remember your words, Mzee. Thank you. As Ntimama walked back to his manyata, he was nervous, not because of the act he was about to perform, but because of the truth. What if it was all true? He had been putting these types of thoughts away from his mind. The possibility that his wife might actually be cheating on him. Maybe one of the reasons why it was so hard for him to believe was because he knew that he did his job as the husband and fulfilled all his duties to her. He knew that all the other Maasai women envied his dedication to her. Most of all, he knew she was happy. He'd never seen her cry or be sad since they got married, so he knew that she was happy. So why would she cheat on him? As he approached his manyata, he steeled himself for the role he was about to play. Nanyoki! He called out, his voice carrying a note of urgency. She appeared at the entrance, her eyes wide with concern. Ntimama, what's wrong? He took a deep breath, bracing himself for the lie. I don't know what happened. My vision, everything has gone dark. I cannot see. She appeared at the entrance, her eyes wide with concern. Ntimama, what's wrong? He took a deep breath, bracing himself for the lie. I don't know what happened. My vision, everything has gone dark. I cannot see. Nanyoki gasped, rushing to his side. What do you mean? How did this happen? Ntimama staggered slightly, extending his hands in front of him as if to find his way. He made a big show of blinking rapidly, his brows furrowed in distress. I was walking back from Mzee Ole Lakini's place, and suddenly it was like the sun vanished from the sky. Everything just went black. Nankoyi frowned. Mzee Ole Lakini's place? She asked. Ntimama knew did not turn his face to her, but he noticed the slight inflection of her voice. She sounded afraid. Ntimama made to stand up, but Nanyoki grabbed his arm, her grip firm but shaking. Sit down, my love. Let me help you. She guided him to a stool, her movements quick and frantic. How can this be? You were fine just this morning. Ntimama's hands trembled as he reached out, touching her face to find his bearings. I don't know, Nanyoki. It's as if a shadow has fallen over my eyes. I am scared. What if it never goes away? Nanyoki knelt in front of him, her eyes scanning his face for any signs of injury. We must get you to a healer, Ntimama. Maybe they can do something. No, Ntimama said, his voice quivering with an edge of desperation. No healers. Let's wait and see if it passes. I don't want to alarm the whole village just yet. He squeezed her hands, conveying as much vulnerability as he could muster. I need you, Nanyoki. I need you to help me with everything. She nodded, her expression resolute despite the fear in her eyes. Of course, my love. I will take care of you. Over the next few hours, Ntimama made a dramatic display of his newfound blindness. He stumbled around the manyata, knocking over objects and bumping into walls. Each time he let out a pained grunt or a frustrated sigh, making sure Nanyoki noticed his struggle. He felt a pang of guilt for deceiving her so elaborately, but the need to uncover the truth was stronger. He knew he would come to hate himself if he was wrong and had been fooled by Saitoti. "Nanyoki, where are you?" he called out at one point, his voice tinged with panic. "I'm here, Auntie Mama," she replied, rushing to his side. "What do you need?" "I was trying to find the water jug, but I couldn't see anything. Can you bring it to me?" Nanyoki fetched the jug, placing it in his hands. "Here, let me help you drink." As she tilted the jug to his lips, Auntie Mama pretended to fumble, spilling water down his chin and onto his chest. "I'm sorry," he mumbled, wiping at his face clumsily. "I'm just so useless like this." "Don't say that," Nanyoki chastised gently, wiping the water from his skin. "You're not useless. You're just going through something difficult. We'll get through it together." Auntie Mama nodded, his face a mask of gratefulness. But behind the facade, his mind was working furiously, analyzing her every word and action. He needed to see if there were cracks in her concern, if her worry was genuine or if it concealed something darker. Later that evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Nanyoki prepared dinner. Auntie Mama sat near the fire, staring blankly ahead, his ears tuned to every sound. He heard her moving around, the clatter of pots, the sizzle of meat. Her movements were swift and efficient, and she seemed to be in good spirits despite his supposed blindness. "Auntie Mama," she called out, "dinner is ready. Let me help you to your seat." He allowed her to guide him, making sure to trip over a small stool on the way. He caught himself just in time, but not without a dramatic flailing of his arms. "This is so frustrating," he said through gritted teeth. Nanyoki helped him sit, her touch gentle and reassuring. "It will get better, Auntie Mama. We just have to be patient." As they ate, Auntie Mama continued his act, fumbling with his food, dropping pieces and making a mess. Nanyoki patiently helped him, her demeanor calm and caring. Yet, Auntie Mama couldn't shake the feeling that she was hiding something. Her kindness seemed almost too perfect, too unwavering. "Nanyoki," he said quietly after a long silence, "thank you for being so understanding. I don't know what I would do without you." She smiled, her eyes softening. "You don't have to thank me, Auntie Mama. I love you. We'll get through this together." But as she spoke, Auntie Mama noticed a flicker in her eyes, a fleeting shadow that gave him pause. It was gone as quickly as it appeared, but it was enough to keep his doubts alive. Maybe he was wrong, after all. He wasn't. A week later, Auntie Mama found himself sitting under the shade of a large acacia tree outside his manyatta. The sun was high in the sky, casting dappled shadows on the ground. He had grown accustomed to his act of blindness, and his senses had sharpened in the absence of sight. The village continued its daily bustle around him, but his thoughts were consumed by the events of the past week. Despite Nanyoki's unwavering care and attentiveness, a seed of doubt remained firmly planted in Auntie Mama's heart. It was easy to see how she could cheat on him without his knowledge. Over the days, he found himself noticing things about her that he never had before. The way she lied about small things, and the way she said rude things about the other women she went to the river with. A few days later, the warmth of the afternoon sun and the gentle rustling of the leaves soon lulled Auntie Mama into a light sleep. Nankoye had gone to the market to get items that would use in cooking later that evening. Auntie Mama leaned back against the tree trunk, his eyes closed, his breathing steady. It was a brief escape from his chaotic thoughts. Suddenly, a faint sound stirred him from his slumber. His eyes snapped open and he quickly shut them again, maintaining his pretense of blindness. He listened intently, his heart pounding in his chest. Whispering voices reached his ears coming from a short distance away. Cautiously, he opened his eyes just enough to see through his lashes. His breath caught in his throat as he saw Nanyoki and Kipoto, a young warrior from the village, standing close together. Kipoto's hand rested on Nanyoki's waist, and she giggled softly, swatting his arm playfully. Intimama's world shattered in that instant. White-hot rage surged through him, his heart breaking at the sight before him. He had hoped desperately that Saitoti's words were lies, but now he was confronted with the painful truth. "Kipoto, stop," Nanyoki whispered, her voice tinged with both amusement and caution. "Someone might see us." Kipoto leaned in closer, his fingers brushing against her cheek. "No one is around, Nanyoki. Besides, your husband is blind. He won't notice a thing." Intimama's fists clenched at his sides, his nails digging into his palms. He struggled to maintain his composure, every fiber of his being screaming for him to confront them. But he forced himself to remain still, to watch and listen. How could she? He thought to himself. He began to shake and his fingers trembled. Nankoi not only cheated on him but also had no respect for him. His heart thudded in his chest and he placed a shaky hand on his chest. He'd been a fool. "I know, but still." Nanyokie's voice wavered slightly. "We must be careful." Kipoto chuckled softly, his hand trailing down to her waist. "Don't worry, we'll be careful." Nanyoki sighed, her resistance seeming to wane. She leaned into Kipoto's touch, her eyes closing briefly. "I love you, Kipoto, but this is so dangerous." "I know," Kipoto murmured, his lips brushing against her ear. "But it makes it all the more exciting, doesn't it?" Nanyoki smiled, a mixture of guilt and longing in her eyes. "Yes, it does." Intimama felt a cold emptiness settle in his chest, the pain almost unbearable. His love for Nanyoki was deep, but now it was laced with betrayal and sorrow. With great effort, Intimama remained still as Nanyoki and Kipoto continued their whispered conversation. The weight of his deceit pressed heavily on him, but he knew it was necessary to uncover the full truth. When Nanyoki and Kipoto finally parted ways, Intimama pretended to wake up, stretching and blinking as if adjusting to his blindness. Nanyoki approached him, her face a mask of concern. "Intimama, are you all right?" she asked, her voice filled with genuine worry. He nodded, forcing a smile. "Yes, just a bit tired. I must have dozed off." Nanyoki took his hand, guiding him back to the manyata. "Let's get you inside. You need rest." Intimama allowed her to lead him, his mind racing with thoughts of what he had witnessed. He would give her a week, a chance to show any sign of regret or guilt. If she didn't, he would confront her and Kipoto. But for now he would continue his act, observing her every move. He would continue his act for a week more, to see if she would show any signs of repentance. He hoped against hope that she might realize her mistake and return to him. It was all still hard for him to believe. She looked at him with so much love, and her kisses and the way she felt when he was inside her didn't change. He loved his wife. And sadly, it was that love, that dedication to her, that would be the death of him. The next few days were a torment for Intimama. He watched Nanyoki closely, noting every detail of her behavior. She continued to care for him with the same dedication and affection, but now he saw it through a lens of suspicion. Each touch, each smile seemed tinged with deceit. It hurt him that it was easy for her to live with him after breaking their vows. One evening as they sat by the fire, Intimama decided to test her. "Nanyoki, do you remember the first time we met?" She smiled, her eyes lighting up with the memory. "Of course, Intimama. It was at the annual festival. You were so brave and strong." He nodded, his expression thoughtful. "Do you ever wish things were different? That I wasn't away so often?" Nanyoki shook her head, her smile unwavering. "No, my love. I understand your duties as a warrior. I am proud of you." Intimama's heart ached at her words. the sincerity in her voice conflicting with the image of her with Kipoto. I just worry that you're lonely when I'm not here. She placed a hand on his cheek, her touch gentle. I am never lonely, Auntie Mama. I have our memories to keep me company, and I know you will always return to me. Affairs. Auntie Mama was giving her a chance to tell him the truth or be apologetic about her affairs, and he would forgive her because he loved her. He observed her interactions with the villagers, watching for any signs of her secret relationship with Kipoto. But Nanyoki was careful, her behavior giving nothing away. As the week drew to a close, Auntie Mama's heart grew heavier. He had seen no signs of repentance from Nanyoki, no indication that she felt any guilt for her actions. It was clear to him that she had made her choice, and it wasn't him. It happened again one evening. He had gone to visit the spiritualist and was almost home when he heard giggling and laughter coming from his home. He wanted to believe that maybe his beloved wife was entertaining other women guests. But he knew that was not the case, since she was not very friendly with the other woman of her age group. Auntie Mama would have rushed into the manyatta, fists balled and teeth bared in anger, but he decided against it. So, Auntie Mama did the only thing that he could do. He tiptoed towards the manyatta and leaned his ears against the wall. Inside him, his stomach churned with nerves and fear. Auntie Mama knows about us, she whispered, her voice filled with dread. And he's not really blind. Kipoto's voice was low and tense. What? How do you know? Nanyoki sighed, her voice trembling. He confronted me. He's been pretending all along. He saw everything. Kipoto's shock was palpable. This is bad. Nanyoki, what are we going to do? Her eyes filled with tears. I don't know. He's heartbroken and I feel so guilty. I betrayed his trust completely. Auntie Mama felt a cold fury building inside him. She was not planning to keep away from Kipoto. The following morning, Auntie Mama decided to confront Nanyoki. He could no longer bear the weight of her deceit. Nanyoki, he called out as she prepared breakfast, his voice steady. She turned to him, a warm smile on her face. Yes, my love? I've been thinking, Auntie Mama began, his tone measured. Perhaps we should visit Mzee Ole Lekini again. Maybe he can find a way to cure my blindness. Nanyoki's smile faltered for a moment before she quickly regained her composure. Of course, Auntie Mama, we can go today. As they made their way to the spiritual guide's manyatta, Auntie Mama felt a mixture of anticipation and dread. He was about to expose the truth, but he feared the consequences. When they arrived, Mzee Ole Lekini greeted them warmly, his wise eyes taking in Auntie Mama's tense demeanor. Mzee, Auntie Mama began, I have something important to discuss with you. Mzee Ole Lekini nodded, gesturing for them to sit. Speak, Auntie Mama. What troubles you? Auntie Mama took a deep breath, steadying himself. I have pretended to be blind for the past week, following your advice, and in doing so I have discovered something painful. He recounted the events of the past days, his voice calm but laced with pain. Nanyoki's face paled as she realized the extent of his deception. Mzee, I saw Nanyoki with Kipoto. I heard their whispers, their plans. She has betrayed me. Nanyoki gasped, her eyes filling with tears. Auntie Mama, please. But Auntie Mama's mind was already made up. He turned to her, eyes blazing with anger. I forgave you, Nanyoki. I gave you a second chance even after disgracing me and our marriage in the village. He took a menacing step towards her. Mzee Ole Lekini signaled to Auntie Mama to maintain the peace. He turned to Nanyoki, who was crying bitterly. Mzee Ole Lekini raised a hand, silencing her. Is this true, Nanyoki? Have you betrayed your husband? Did he forgive you and you still betrayed him? Nanyoki sobbed, her voice breaking. I'm so sorry, Auntie Mama. I didn't mean for it to happen. I love you, but I was lonely. And Kipoto, he made me feel alive again. Auntie Mama groaned. Then why didn't you stop when I came back? Why did you continue to fool me even after I forgave you? The words broke his heart as he asked. I am sorry, Auntie Mama. Forgive me. She knelt before him. Auntie Mama's heart ached at her words, but he knew what he had to do. Mzee, what should I do? I can't continue like this. Mzee Ole Lekini's gaze was stern but compassionate. Nanyoki, you have committed a grave mistake. You must face the consequences of your actions. Auntie Mama, it is your right to decide her fate. Auntie Mama looked at Nanyoki, his eyes filled with sorrow. I loved you, Nanyoki, but trust once broken is hard to mend. You must leave the village. I cannot live with someone who has betrayed me so deeply. Nanyoki sobbed uncontrollably, but she nodded, understanding the gravity of her actions. I will leave, Auntie Mama. I am so sorry for the pain I have caused you. But it was too late, and Auntie Mama's mind was made up.